Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and this is a quick video response to RuneSlinger's Dare to Try video, in which he talks about the fact that a lot of people are resistant to change and that knee-jerk reactions can stop us experiencing new and often interesting evolutions in gaming. Now, before we start, I'd just like to say that personally, I love the fact that RuneSlinger's rant was still far more polite than some of us are actually in our normal videos. And another one of my favorite YouTubers, Frank Fry, also did a great video response that I'll put a link to down below along with the original video. I'll try not to repeat Frank too much, but there may be a little bit of overlap, as is inevitable with this sort of thing. Now, as I've said, RuneSlinger makes the point that a lot of people are resistant to change, and this can almost cut us off from experiencing these new and interesting evolutions in gaming. And this is true to a certain extent. A lot of people do find change, any change, scary. After all, we all have our comfort zones. Otherwise, we wouldn't bother coming up with a phrase to describe it. When people are more comfortable with something, it tends to become their go-to option, especially if new things require additional learning, understanding new concepts, or a significant outlay in time, money, or both. Now, I know from experience that businesses spend an awful lot of time trying to manage change and encourage people to adopt new working practices. They even run whole courses on this, on how to get people to accept new working practices and change as a good thing, rather than shying away from it and pulling back from it. So it's unsurprising in games, as in most other things in life, that people's initial reaction to new and unfamiliar concepts is to draw back from them a little. And I don't think people can be blamed too much for that. RuneSlinger does make a valid comment that a lot of new game concepts, such as dice with symbols on them, etc., are no more difficult to learn than it was initially to learn to interpret the numbers on the normal polyhedral dice for a specific system. And this is absolutely true. However, if someone has already learnt how to use a standard method of doing something in a game, then they may find themselves, when a new method is broached to them, asking the question, what does the new system do for me that I can't already do with the knowledge that I've got? And this is a question I often find myself asking, and that I've heard other people ask. I've heard phrases such as, do I need another fantasy game? Do I need another science fiction game? Do I need more dice, etc., being asked a number of times. And I can see people's point. If a new game requires a significant outlay of time and or money, then it can be quite daunting for people, especially people who have jobs and things they have to do in their normal life and maybe don't have the money to keep expending. After all, the books and PDFs for RPGs themselves aren't cheap, even before you, well, not in the majority of cases, even before you throw in any additional extras like extra dice you need or game components or whatever. A person may find themselves going, well, I bought this, I could buy this book, but then I've got to buy extra new dice and I've got to buy extra new components, or I can use this book and I've already got the dice for that since I've bought them for another game and I don't need any extra components. Now, I can see that if someone is maybe struggling with money or they don't feel they have the time to invest in a radically different system, why that might cause them to not lean towards it, or for it not to find favor in their eyes. So in that case, and taking that into consideration, what can we do to encourage people to try new concepts? Well, I think there's a few different things. First of all, number one, related to something they already know, since enfolding an unfamiliar concept within a familiar one will make it far easier to digest. It's that whole spoonful of sugar helping the medicine go down concept. To give you a real life example, when I first ran a Fate game for one of my friends who'd not done tabletop much before, I ran a game based on the Grand Theft Auto game world or universe because I knew he loved the game. it kept everything simple, and it was something he could relate to, and he didn't feel like he was coming in cold on the concept. So if you're running a game that uses new dice or new systems of doing things, try and slant it in a way so that it doesn't seem so unfamiliar. That might lessen the extent to which people initially withdraw from it. Number two would be to start off with a one-shot test game. People are often more willing to try out new systems and concepts when it's a one-shot, since they know that if they don't like it, all they've got to do is put up with it for one session rather than potentially a whole long-running campaign where they find themselves not enjoying the game and in that awkward situation of saying to the GM, I'm not going to keep turning up to the game because I'm not enjoying it. Whereas if it's a one-off, they don't really have anything to lose, and you never know, they might find they enjoy it. And then if they do, you could always go on to run a campaign later on, perhaps even a continuation of the one-shot. 3, keep your first adventure simple and introduce new concepts gradually. Run the player through a few simple scenarios to, again, ease them into the new system and introduce new concepts gradually so that it minimizes the levels of stress and unfamiliarity to the players. And finally, number 4, if the new game requires strange dice or components, then make sure that you, as a GM, have enough for people to borrow. Now, generally, people don't want to spend a lot of money on components for a game that they don't like, or they may not have the money to spend, but asking them to lay out an amount of capital initially for an unfamiliar game that they have no idea of whether they like or whether they're going to continue playing, it's just an additional barrier in the way of them enjoying the game. Whereas if they turn up to a game and you say, oh, this game uses strange dice, but I've got some here, here's some you can borrow, that allows them to sort of dip their toe in the water, give the game mechanics a try without spending their time worrying about how much money they've got to spend on these additional components. And if they do enjoy it, there's no reason why they can't buy components later on. So there we go. That's my video response to RuneSlinger's Daring to Try video, and a few suggestions from me on how you can encourage people to try out new concepts and game systems. I hope if you enjoy this video, you'll click on like and subscribe and click on the red dice in the corner. Until I see you next time, if you have any comments, please, as always, put them in the box down below or hit me up in the Google Plus links. Till I see you in the next video, take care and happy gaming.